Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John. This reports for the 4th of February. Well, we continue to plug along. We dip down to the ABM yellow, support off that because we've got clean signs of, positivity. Nothing dramatically strong. And with most of the shorts covering on that dip down, that's why we got the balance. And there really aren't enough right now to help drive things up higher. Though new fund money should be coming in right about now, so we'll see if that's enough to keep things elevated and push through. But again, we talked about this. It was critical that a new high be made. Otherwise, there's going to be some people just assuming a double top configuration, and then everyone's eyes would be peeled on this lower area right around 50%, because right there they'll all be drawing trend lines and necklines and stuff. None of that stuff matters as much as what the algos are doing. So we'll see at that particular point. And from an NQ, it was a little bit more powerful. Didn't get quite the same dip down to the ABM. And that's just a function of where the economy has shifted to, given the COVID situation. But there's a lot more complexities, and particularly doesn't look like things are flowing as cleanly in Congress as some might have hoped as far as added stimulus and stuff like that. So ultimately, will there be something? One would think, but there are no guarantees at this particular point. And from a euro standpoint, again, we talked about the problems with the euro, and that without the U.S. stimulus getting back into that normalized range, of course, we're just filling in positive extremes. We had marked them from before there, and then getting back into the range that has always been there, which is all the way down to the 116 to 110 range, would be a normalized based on really where the economies are at. But this was a devaluation of the dollar from the added stimulus. But now it looks like Europe is probably going to have to go with that. You've got the Brit exit, so central banks, gotta love them. And of course, this is problematic for gold, despite what you hear in the silver markets and the retail. Some of this stuff short-lived. I mean, of course, all we have to do is point out the GameStop thing and what happened with that. Not hard to see how that, you can start it, but ultimately the algos run the setups. So let's go to those 5K chart here from the ES. And we ended up with some interesting setups, and we were talking about these in our Skype chat, where we'll get a little bit of the positive extremes that will come in on some of these pops that fill back in, produces that magenta, but I'm always looking for those rising gold configurations. We ended up with a similar one right here in this run, where we ended up with yellow ones prior to it, and those don't always fill 100%, but they still have a similar effect. So it happens right at the same time, and it just happened to be at a spot where, for 2 bars, literally, gold went flat during this small shakeout reset, and of course the dip here to the extremes to the green, and not dipping below the red, which would have likely been a little bit softer, and immediately turned around and fired back up to the upside to break out to the new highs. Now, even in doing that, produced new positive extremes. It started right about there. That filled, carried through a little bit more, and then filled, actually, the initial yellow candle from right back over here. So they just captured an extra divergence, waited for the weakness, and then assaulted it that way. So, end of the market, we ended up with the nice clean DOC spread, interestingly enough. Likewise, took some heat coming back up to the upside, hit the algo, and boom. Almost brought it back down to the secondary one, which was a previous algo from the other day that we talked about filling, and that was the expectation from before, and we marked that on the Skype chat as well. And sure enough, filled that nicely. There's even one in the 37 range, but that was the initial breakout move, and then they take a little longer to fill because, again, This is where you can go to the 50K chart and see, if you're not in a complete sell signal, these medium positive extremes are more likely to fill in the broader one until, your bigger time frame charts really suggest that softness is there. And ultimately, the algos, like I was mentioning, they don't care how long it takes. They're merely looking for the imbalances and to build their positions accordingly. And depending on the size of the position they need to build, you'd be surprised how long it takes to acquire the number of contracts you need at a particular level in order to get the return that the algo is looking for. And so you'll get some of these extreme up moves, and then all of a sudden it'll come back and fill 100%. Sometimes it does it quickly if they're able to get good volume. Otherwise, it takes a little bit longer. It just depends on the size of the algo that's operating. So we'll continue to look at that here. This is one of those really nice ones where the steel pops back above, comes below. It's been a complex coding thing trying to come up with the exact way to incorporate that, but we've talked about this where it dips back down to the one, then you're looking for the orange to drop down below and gives you your earlier sell signal in this case. A couple of bars before we end up with cyan into red, and then it happened right at previous algo level, not a shock at all. So all in all, good stuff, very interesting and relevant with those unique situations that take place there, because we've been talking about that. It's the same thing with the azure blue lines. These are representing much broader trend moves, and so when I get a positive shakeout and you start to see those climbing, you're going to be hard pressed to get activity in the short. It's when they start to flatten out like this, that's when usually you get your deviation back down to the downside. It's been a while since we've covered those, but they've always been there. It's just a matter of overall seeing it, and some of that's already encoded into the paint bar setup as it is anyway. As always, though, I will keep updating you on the Skype channel. Trade well. We'll talk to you later.